This is the Best of Mike and Mike podcast on ESPNRadio.com. The Best of Mike and Mike.
Hey, it's Golic. Thanks for checking out the Best of the Mike and Mike podcast. Here's what we got for you today. How do we fix or replace the dunk contest? That and more heading into All-Star Weekend with Jalen Rose. Around the World of Sports with Michael Smith and Jemele Hill as his and hers joins us on set. Plus, you need to hear Stephen A. Smith share his thoughts on the latest chapter in the Pete Rose debate.
The Best of Mike and Mike.
Mike and Mike.
We are headed down to Manhattan. All-Star festivities will kick off officially for us tomorrow morning. We'll be broadcasting live in the city tomorrow morning from the team hotel. And among our guests will be, or among the things we have, is an interview with Adam Silver. We're sitting down with Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA, later today. So we thought that we would give you the opportunity to ask your questions to the commissioner, as we did when we had Rob Manfred in here last week. So this morning we're going to take your questions on Twitter at Mike and Mike, and in particular we're going to use the hashtag replace the dunk contest. A lot of people, I think, wonder if the dunk contest has outlived its usefulness.
Right.
It is populated now largely by guys you don't even recognize. The format last year, even when they had pretty attractive dunkers last year, the format was so unrecognizable that when the contest ended, I was in the building we didn't know it was over.
We were sitting right by one another, and we looked at each other like, wait a minute, this thing is over? We had no clue it was over. I mean, if you have to keep trying to change the format of it to try and keep it relevant, we're wondering, is it time to just get rid of it altogether? Because last year there were some names. This year, while I'm sure we're going to see some great dunks, there are not a lot of big names, and that's always the big question is if one guy you don't really know does a dunk and a star does the same dunk, you know, it seems bigger because the star does it. It's unfair, but unfortunately it's the way it is sometimes.
Is there something that we can replace it with? That's the question. Do you know what I remember they used to do briefly? Was they had, I think I remember seeing it at halftime of stuff, they would have a game of horse. They would have like two NBA superstars and play a game of horse. Now, I personally found that phenomenal. I thought it was a lot of fun to watch.
Remember, you can't do anything that's going to be too physical. Like people are going to say we want a one-on-one or a three-on-three. I don't know if you can get away with that. You know, God forbid.
Those guys aren't going to want to do that.
Yeah, they're not going to want to do that and actually play it, you know, in a way that I think is going to be entertaining. So,
but give me some horse.
I think
horse could include freakish dunks.
Yes, it could.
But it could also go to the area of other kind of crazy trick shots.
Yep.
I remember. I feel like I can remember Pete Maravich shooting from from the seat of his pants, like sitting down and taking a shot.
I think in
a game of horse.
I think in that you get a lot of misses because people are going to try some crazy things, and you wonder how that will play. Because that's one thing about the dunk contest: when you keep getting misses, you know, you're like, you know, and you can only do that so many times.
All right, so we'll see how that works out. But we'll take your suggestions all morning long. We'll get the hashtag going. Replace the dunk contest. Is there something that you would rather see them do on All-Star Saturday night? We'll hear from you. Meanwhile, the first half of the season all but over. One game left, and it's a good one tonight with Cleveland and Chicago, although we got a bunch of injury concerns on both sides. It's been an injury-plagued NBA season, which has brought up a lot of questions about schedule and scheduling, which I will definitely bring up with Adam Silver when we see him later today. But maybe no Jimmy Butler, maybe no Kevin Love. Kevin Love's got an eye all of a sudden. Jimmy Butler's got a shoulder. So we'll see. But here's a pretty good little matchup to end the first half of the season between two teams that we could easily see wind up facing off in the Eastern Conference playoffs.
These are two teams most people picked to match up in the Eastern Conference finals. But, you know, at this point, there's a couple of teams in front of them, namely Atlanta and Toronto. And it's basically close between number 2 all the way to number 5 in Washington, basically just 3.5 games separating. So obviously we have time there, but certainly the way Cleveland's playing, you have to start looking at them a lot closer.
And the way the Hawks have been playing, although they lose a terrible game last night, they lead by 18 points and wind up losing by 1 to Boston. Going into the game, Atlanta was 35-0 this year when leading by double digits in a game. 35-0 when you have a double-digit lead in a league where a double-digit lead at this point usually goes by in the blink of an eye, but the Hawks have been that kind of good, so they stumble going into the break. The Warriors do not. They beat Minnesota last night. They go to the All-Star break at 42-9. It's the third time the Warriors go to the All-Star break with the best record in the NBA. The last time they did it was 75-76. I'm thinking, was that the year they won the title? What's the year they won the title with Rick Barry? They won it in 75.
75,
They won it the year before. 76 was Boston, right? Was the year Boston beat Phoenix, and then the next year would have been Portland. So this the year after, but that's at a time when they were a great team. The Warriors were a genuinely great team led by Rick Barry back then, and they are a genuinely great team now.
A great shooting team right now. Who I heard Steph Curry after the game last night saying that we don't even feel like we're playing that well, but we're still finding ways to win. So, you iron that out, and sky's the limit.
The other note I thought was interesting going into the All-Star break, just to throw out there, say what you will about Jason Kidd and however it is he orchestrated his exit from Brooklyn, and that certainly left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. And Milwaukee losing the number one pick, to the bad injury during the course of the season. But they're 30-23 after a win yesterday. Elias says they're the first team in history to double their previous season's win total before the All-Star break. Milwaukee was 15-67 last year. They're 30-23. So they already have twice as many wins this year as they had all of last year. And we have just reached the All-Star break. So pretty nice job.
You're right.
By Jason Kidd.
You're right. And because it certainly didn't end well, obviously, with the Nets. A lot of people frowned upon the way he got out of there. And so maybe looking down upon what he's been doing or his reputation going forward. But he's got those guys playing. They're playing extremely well. They don't get a lot of talk. They're sitting there in the 6th slot right now. That we'll see where they end up, in the playoffs, and if they can make some noise.
Our Mike and Mike were presented by Progressive Insurance. You can save hundreds on your car, business, or recreational vehicle insurance from a local independent agent. Go to Progressive.com today. Now that's Progressive, so we slide into the All-Star break, which for us now means a little bit of fun. We slide into, again, a huge broadcast tomorrow morning. We've got enormous guests tomorrow. If I'm not mistaken, we have Adam Silver tomorrow.
Right.
We have Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant together tomorrow. We have Damian Lillard tomorrow.
Right.
We have Kevin Hart tomorrow. So it's going to be a tremendous morning tomorrow with us on Mike and Mike Live from Manhattan. So we hope you can spend that morning with us getting set for the All-Star game. And then we, of course, some of you may remember, if you were unfortunate enough to see it, that we played last year in the celebrity game. And we played so well that this year they made us coaches.
Yeah, I fear where they'll put us next year.
Yeah, I think that if we coach as well as we played, then next year, we're going to be ushers.
Yeah.
We have very little chance whatsoever of being directly involved in the game. But we are coaching the game tomorrow night.
Yes, we are.
And so I'm telling you what. I have a little bit of a history with you when it comes to this.
Yes, you do.
We have coached against each other before.
Remember, gang, when we talk, these are celebrity games. They don't count in the standings. They're not real games.
But they're
supposed to be fun games.
No.
They don't matter.
Can I ask you a question?
Have a good time, and we're supposed to entertain the crowd.
Question.
Yes.
Are we keeping score?
There is score being kept.
So if we are not trying to win, then what would be the reason to keep score?
The best way would be, the best reason I could say is to entertain the crowd is more important than the score, and you, my friend, blew it.
I've got a secret weapon.
Yeah.
Okay? So many years ago, I take you back. Dateline, 2008. Yankee Stadium.
Yeah.
Major League Baseball All-Star Weekend, celebrity softball game. Opposing managers, Mike and Mike.
Yeah.
My team is up a run. 2 outs in the bottom of the 6th, which is the last inning.
Yeah.
You've got a runner on.
Yes, I do.
2 outs, and Wade Boggs coming to the plate.
Wade Boggs, now thousands, tens of thousands of people.
Place was pretty full.
Filled that stadium to watch these guys and be entertained by these athletes. So the great Wade Boggs,
Hall of Famer,
is at the plate. Man on.
Yep.
Down 1. I mean, what excitement. What sheer excitement for that. I mean, that's what the people paid their money to come see.
I needed a moment, however, with my pitcher.
Yeah.
My pitcher was James Denton from Desperate Housewives. And he was throwing smoke that day.
Oh, yeah.
And I walk out to the mound and I said, "Hey, Big Jim, we're putting this man on."
Yeah. I mean,
and he looked at me like I was out of my mind. And I said, "No, I'm serious. We're going to intentionally walk him. Kenny Mayne is on the on-deck circle."
Why he even listened to you, I don't know.
I was the manager. I could have taken the ball from him and brought someone else to pitch.
Right.
I'm telling you right now, I had Chingy sitting right there on my bench ready to pitch if it need be. So I said, "James, we intentionally walked Wade Boggs." I got booed.
Oh,
so
you
loudly.
got booed by your own team.
Oh, my God, did I get booed.
Your own team didn't care who won the game.
Kenny Mayne harmlessly flied out to center field, and we won. So that was a magnificent win for me against you.
It was horrific.
It was a victory. We had a W next to my name and an L next to yours. Yeah. So here's my secret weapon this year. I got some good players. You got some good players. You've got a great assistant coach in Spike Lee, one of the great directors of all time. I have no doubt that he can diagram some great plays, put together some stuff. However, my assistant coach is Carmelo Anthony. And I'm telling you right now, late game, I need a bucket.
Yeah.
I'm going to Melo.
So here's the thing.
I'm putting Melo on the floor. I am putting Melo in this game.
There's a possibility that Carmelo may get his knee worked on and miss the rest of the season at some point.
Not before tomorrow night.
So he's got a bulky knee.
Not before tomorrow night.
In a game that doesn't matter, not that their games in the regular season matter much anymore right now, quite honestly. You know.
I didn't say that, Melo. Melo's my guy.
You really think?
Yes.
With the bulky knee and what's riding on the shoulders of Carmelo Anthony for the New York Knicks, that you're going to slide him into the game and he's going to go in the game.
Well, let's analyze the competition that he will be facing. Okay, it's not like I'm putting Carmelo out there against Bruce Bowen. You know, I'm putting Carmelo out there against Nick Cannon. Okay, where are you going to put on Carmelo? Anthony Anderson?
Chris Mullin.
Well, I mean, if you're going to put Chris Mullin on him, now we're going to have a little bit of an issue.
You know what? Here, if you're going to go to that move, you know what I'm going to have to do? Make him use the bulky knee.
I'm going
to have to make him use the bulky knee.
Here's what we're going to do. If the game is close, we'll just do a 3-point contest between Mullin and Carmelo.
Okay, that's fine by me.
But actually, I have Allen Houston, too, so I can get Houston chucking up shots as well. We're going to have a fun time tomorrow night. I've got Kevin Hart on my team. Now, if I could make a trade with you, and I bring this based on, and obviously the NBA made these teams. We have nothing to do with it.
We have nothing to do with selecting it, but I have the secret weapon.
But this request comes from my beloved, my favorite person in the world, my baby, Nicole Greenberg.
Oh, yes.
All right, my 14-year-old daughter.
Yep.
Who the longtime listeners of this show will remember as Baby Nikki. Yep. She's not such a baby anymore.
I like her more than you.
And let me tell you right now, this Ansel Elgort.
Yeah.
The star of The Fault in Our Stars, who's on your team.
Yes.
When she found out he was in this game, I think she almost cried. I'm telling you right now, I need to find some way to get my daughter a picture with him.
So when you first brought this up, I would, listen, I get it. He's the heartthrob.
He's the heartthrob.
Fault in Our Stars isn't Divergent.
Yeah, he's a real good-looking kid.
20 years old?
Yeah, he's really young.
He's this heartthrob. So I have the heartthrob, which is having a great commodity to trade.
Right.
So I actually started looking into that. Okay. All right. Okay. Nikki wants this guy on her dad's team.
Desperately.
So I'm looking to do that. Who could I get? What could I do? Who could I grab to come back to my team? Then I did something. I Googled him.
Oh, you looked him up.
Okay. I looked him up.
He's 6'4".
He's 6'4".
Played high school basketball.
And
he wants to dunk on Kevin Hart.
And he wants to dunk on Kevin Hart. Guess who's staying on my team? Nikki, love you. I'll bring you over to our bench to meet him, get a picture with him. My guys can make a picture, as John Gruden would say, get an autograph, and then he's playing on my team. This is my secret weapon.
The tragedy of this thing is that my daughter is now rooting against me.
Yes.
In the 2015 Sprint All-Star Celebrity
This guy
game.
is my secret weapon that is no longer a secret.
So we'll see what winds up happening with that, but that's going to be our night tomorrow night. Again, the game will be on ESPN. You can watch it. Should be fun, but we go into the All-Star weekend, with a little bit of fun, hopefully. And, again, we'll take your suggestions this morning on Twitter using the hashtag Replace the Dunk Contest. If you can come up with a better idea for something to do on All-Star Saturday night, if you feel like that has outlived its time, then we will bring the suggestions to Adam Silver, and we'll see what you can come up with. We're Mike and Mike coming up in 60 seconds. The unfunniest man went on the funniest show on television.
Oh, my gosh.
It was the immovable force meeting the irresistible object.
You just got to be ready with a lot of questions.
I just said that backwards, by the way. It was the irresistible force meeting the immovable object.
Didn't even know because I wasn't listening.
One way or another, it was Bill Belichick went on Letterman last night. And I've never... Now, we've told this story before. We've seen Belichick funny.
Yes, we have.
We were the hosts of an event. We emceed an event for Charlie Weiss.
Yes, Hannah and Friends.
When he was coaching Notre Dame.
Which was a fantastic event with Bon Jovi.
Right. He has a wonderful charity. Hannah and Friends is a wonderful charity. And we had a terrific time, and our duties basically ended with introducing Bon Jovi, who played a private concert for maybe a couple of hundred people in this room at the Waldorf, which was fantastic. And at the very end of it, he starts playing the very recognizable guitar open to the song Wanted Dead or Alive. And all of a sudden, he just stops, and he says, all right, I will donate $50,000 to Hannah and Friends right now if Charlie and Belichick come up here and sing this song. And, of course, Charlie and Belichick went right up there and sang the song.
No
Belichick was hilarious.
He was fantastic.
Hilarious.
This was a guy earlier in the day. Greeny was so intimidated by him. Greeny went to work out.
Oh, I'll tell you. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
When we were up against the clock, you want me to tell that whole story now?
No, I was going to do the abbreviated story.
But that story, that's a story that requires it's an entirety.
It does?
It's too good of a story to waste on just the brief facts.
Okay, I think the brief action would still tell the story.
Well, then go ahead if you want to.
No, I don't want to ruin your story.
We've already taken up enough time, man.
I don't want to be the guy that all of a sudden doesn't tell your story. I want to let you tell your story.
One way or another. Let's let Belichick tell the story. He's on Letterman last night. So let's hear a little bit of this together, because I have it on the DVR, but I haven't watched it, so we're going to hear it together for the first time. So this is Bill Belichick last night on Letterman. Now, you know that Letterman is a big Indianapolis Colts fan. He's from Indiana. He's a Colts fan. Mm-hmm. So he starts talking about the big game that LeGarrette Blount had against the Colts, and here's where that went.
He did a great job for us. He had a good game against your Colts. I'm sure you remember that, David. 160 yards, 3 touchdowns. But when he was available, we tried to sign him in the offseason. He ended up signing with Pittsburgh, and then when he was available, we were happy to get him back, and he gave us a good lift.
Yeah. Now let's talk about the.
We get off that Colts subject in a hurry, don't we?
All right, let's talk a little bit more about that game, because it was...
That's all right. No, we can move on.
Oh, that was great.
That was a great line.
That's a great line.
Yes. And the delivery was very, very good. Very well done.
Great line.
Yeah,
all right, how about on all of the pounds per square inch conversation?
I learned a lot in the next few days, and I never realized there were so many Patriots fans that were scientists and physicists and college professors that understood it that well. So we learned a lot in a hurry. I should have got a college credit for that.
Yeah, I love that. I should have got a college credit for it. That's still one of the most memorable pressers I'll ever, especially with Belichick going in the science of PSI.
All of the credits of this, of course, Worldwide Pants, which is Letterman's production company. Let's see here. The third one and the fourth one go back to back. Okay, so these are on the deflated footballs.
I knew it would come to nothing, and I knew it had no effect on the game, and you could tell in your tone in the press conference, and then Tom Brady also in the press conference, you could tell that it was nonsense. Now, where did it come from? You know where it came from. Did it come from Mike Colts? Is that where it came from?
Dave, we're just out there playing the game, doing the best we can.
I know you know exactly what happened. You know I know you know. And what it was some kind of horseplay. Am I right?
No.
Wait a minute. I was told it was horseplay.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. That's hilarious. I mean, Letterman can get away with that stuff. The thing about Letterman is he is genuinely a huge sports fan.
Monster sports fan. Loves getting on there and to be able to talk about some sports. Absolutely.
So, all right, so good stuff. So Belichick goes on Letterman. That's just, to me, is a funny combination. Bill Belichick, knowing him as we do, and those are two guys also, by the way, that not easy to chit-chat with.
No. They're not really into the, hey, let's just kind of sit down and talk about our feelings.
Yes, because we've met them both.
Yes.
And we've interviewed Belichick. Every time we go to Foxborough, he comes, he does our show, he sits with us.
He's very nice.
We've been on Letterman's show 11 times, but they're not chatters. They don't just sit there and say, how's the wife and kids?
I mean, we did hang out in a private area with Belichick and Charlie at that event that we did. And
I was kind of hiding in the corner.
You were unbelievably scared of him. It was just amazing. He's just a man.
I know that, but he's the man that should have been the man who coached the Jets all these years, and we should have 4 championships at this point and be defending our pounds per square inch.
The best of Mike and Mike.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Mike and Mike.
Okay, let me rephrase or restate my point on Pete Rose, okay? There's stories out there all over the place. Obviously, Pete's talking to everybody. We had Rob Manfred in here last week, new commissioner, last chance, really. Rob Manfred is probably going to be, if knock wood, he stays healthy, going to be the commissioner for the majority of the rest of Pete Rose's life. So if Pete Rose wants to get into the Hall of Fame while he's alive, Rob Manfred is probably going to have to be the guy who's going to let him in. And Manfred told us last week, I'll play it again. We asked Manfred, has he heard from Pete?
I have heard from his lawyer, and I do anticipate having a conversation about that. I've been very careful not to say anything about the merits of it, because ultimately I'll have to make a decision there. But it's a conversation that I expect we'll have.
Expects to have. I believe, if I had to bet on it, and I base this on no information. Rob Manfred did not say anything to us on or off the air beyond that. So I'm just basing this on a gut feeling. I think he is going to do it. I think he is going to eventually pave the way for Pete to get in the Hall of Fame.
I think we both agree with that. He's going to make him eligible to be voted, and then you have other discussions and decisions to make on.
I believe the writers will put Pete in the Hall. That's my belief. I could be wrong. I think they will.
The issue will be is will he get to the writers or will he go right to the Veterans Committee, which we both think he should go to the writers. His clock should start at 0, but let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Let's not put the cart before the horse.
Right.
Let's go back to removing him from the banned list. Because that's what would have to happen, okay? Yes. For those who don't understand the circumstances, Pete Rose signed away his own fate with now 3 commissioners ago, Bart Giamatti, after the Dowd report, and basically acknowledged in that, although he thought he was making a deal that had a term on it, and obviously it didn't work out that way, and the commissioner died, and everything else has changed, and Pete Rose still finds himself 25 years later on the outside looking in at Major League Baseball on the permanently banned list for gambling on the sport, which is the ultimate no-no, and I understand that, and I'm in no way diminishing the severity of that crime against the sport. What I am saying is 25 years is a very long penalty. I am also saying that I believe that his lifetime ban from working in the sport, from making a living from Major League Baseball, should remain in place for the rest of his life. But I do believe as one of the great players, and what does Chris Carter always say? Can you tell the story of the history of the game without this guy? In my opinion, Pete Rose is a huge part of the story of the history of baseball. He brought millions of people into the tent in the 70s. He was an infectious, great player. He's the all-time hits leader.
He was a guy that if you're at a ball game with your kid, you point to him and you say, that's the way you play the game. That's the way you play the game.
He was a fun player to watch and a genuinely great player. So, in my opinion, he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame based upon what he did. Now, over the last 20 years, he has been his own worst enemy. He has handled the situation as badly as you can. He has lied, and lied some more. He allowed close friends and legendary players like Johnny Bench to unknowingly lie for him, to defend him erroneously. He then finally came forth and told the truth by selling it in a book. You can't handle the situation worse than Pete has handled it. And in my opinion, Pete Rose deserves to get into the Hall of Fame based on the merits of his play. And there isn't anything he can say that will change my opinion. Either he belongs in or he doesn't. Pete Rose is not going to talk his way into the Hall of Fame, in my opinion. So if I were the commissioner, I would make that decision absent a discussion with Pete Rose. Because there's nothing, if he says to me, I'm really sorry for what I've done, oh, baloney, get out of here. Get out of here. I don't want to hear that. You've had a million chances to not do what you did, and you've done it. So I'm not interested in hearing how sorry you are. I'm not interested in hearing how you've changed, you've reformed. I understand that I was wrong. Terrific. You're a terrific player. You belong in the Hall of Fame. To me, there's nothing else to be said. I can make that decision absent that conversation. I don't need the meeting.
Could not. I mean, we disagree on things over the years. I couldn't be more against that than maybe anything we've ever talked about. And listen, you make the valid points. You really do we expect to hear from me? You know what? I really don't think what I did was wrong. I doubt you're going to hear that. But there, as I said, maybe it's from. One of the things I've also said in the years we've done this together is I'm a face-to-face guy. I'm a let's look each other in the eye guy. I've always been that way, always will be. And for a decision like this, I don't think there is any way that you cannot look Pete in the eye, hear him speak. Whatever you're going to take out of that is fine because you're the one making the decision. All I know is incarcerated people for 20 years meet before a parole board. They meet with these people. They don't just the parole board doesn't just get handed a report by the guards that say this guy has been good for the last 20 years. He said this. He said this. He is ready to go back to society. Who would know more than the guards in this place? We see him every day. Here's our report. No need to meet with them. No, they meet with them. They sit with them. And do you think you hear what they want to hear? What do you think they're going to say? Oh, I've changed in prison. I think I can be a benefit to society. They know what they're going to hear, yet they meet with them. They look at them. They listen to them. I think that's important to do. You may not learn anything new, but to me there is something about that. If I'm going to make this decision for you, You are going to sit in front of me and we're going to talk.
Stephen A. Smith is listening and is chiming in with a thought. Of course, the star of First Take, which follows us every morning on ESPN2. Stephen A., what's up? What do you think?
I cannot believe what I'm hearing from you, Greeny. I really can't believe it. I mean, listen, I get where you're coming from, and this is the thing that just blows me away. You're one of the nicest guys I've ever encountered in my life. I cannot believe how cruel you sound. Not only are you saying that you don't want to meet with this guy, but you're saying even though you're a supporter of him being in the Hall of Fame, he should never be allowed in baseball again. There are murderers that get lighter sentences than Pete Rose has received. I am in no way defending what this guy has done, the continuous lies that he told over the years, but most of it, if not all of it, was born out of fear that exactly what has happened would have happened. Meanwhile, over the course of that period of time, can baseball have been any worse? Can we not have encountered performance-enhancing drug users as folks that are compromising the game because they are literally cheating by enhancing their performance, and they've been allowed to return to baseball? Mark McGwire is an employee on a Major League Baseball team, but Pete Rose, who generated millions for Major League Baseball, who built a following, who millions of baseball lovers out there, gravitated to the sport because of him, the guy with the greatest nickname as far as I'm concerned in the history of Major League Baseball, he doesn't get to come back in because this hard and fast rule of not gambling on baseball was put into place. Oh, but you can use performance-enhancing drugs and we can forgive you even though you show up on Capitol Hill, can't even remember how to plead the fifth, and you get employed in Major League Baseball. And, oh, by the way, Mark McGwire did so, admitted it only in an interview with Bob Costas, only after he had a job waiting for him, and it was the Major League Baseball Network. Come on, Greeny. I mean, come on now. I know Pete Rose is wrong. I'm not here to defend him in terms of, oh, my Lord, he did something right. He did everything wrong. But it's been over 25 years. This is America, and I think the absence of compassion is really alarming, especially when we've shown a willingness to literally forgive or turn a blind eye and a deaf ear to everybody else.
Mike and Mike, Stephen A. Smith. So we're having two different discussions, Steve. Let's go to the first one first. If you were making the decision, because I've said, if I were making the decision, I would put him in the Hall of Fame. If you
make him eligible,
I would make him eligible. If I'm the commissioner, I would do whatever it is that my part is to allow the process to begin for putting him in the Hall of Fame. Let's put your separate discussion about his being able to work in the sport aside for just a moment. If you were to put him, would you need to sit with him if you believe he should be in the Hall of Fame, or even if you didn't believe he should be in the Hall of Fame? Is there anything that he could say to you in a conversation that was going to sway your opinion one way or another based upon his history?
No, I would definitely put him in the Hall of Fame, or I would make him eligible to be voted into the Hall of Fame immediately. I don't need to meet with him, but I would anyway, because that's the process. And if we're talking about the process, so much has happened, so much has transpired. There's a level of contrition that kicks in, particularly, Greeny, when you get older. You look at your own mortality. You recognize all the mistakes that you made. And so I would want to be able to say, I looked at him, I saw him, I talked to him. This is what I come away with. Is it necessary? I agree with you there, but I would still do it because that's just the way things go.
And then the second part of it is, I understand your argument about performance-enhancing drugs, and we can have a million different debates, and Lord knows over the decade we've done that here, about just how stiff the penalty should be for one thing or for another thing. The way I've always understood it is that within the competitive sports leagues, they consider gambling to be worthy of the quote-unquote professional death penalty, because once you interfere with the integrity of the sport, once you bring in the possibility, as the NBA had that problem with the rogue referee that time, once you bring in the possibility that you've got a guy who is that the game is not on the up and up, now you have a chance to bring down the entire house of cards. That is my understanding of why it is worthy of being a greater crime, if you will, than performance-enhancing drugs or anything else that they can think of.
Well, then my response to that is make sure let's get rid of Oprah. Let's erase her from the landscape. Let's erase Dr. Phil. Well, let's erase Dr. Ruth or whomever else you want to pick, because it seems to me that over the last 20 years, we've come up, professions have been created to literally explain away the nonsensical things people have done throughout their lives, because everything seems to be attached to a problem or an addiction or anything like that. Anybody that you talk to in Major League Baseball would highlight Pete Rose as a gambling addict. He had a problem. So guess what? How come he can't sit back here years later and went like this? I had a problem. I had a problem. It was a big-time problem. I had an addiction. I didn't know how to deal with it, et cetera, et cetera. We're willing to explain away everything else. We're willing to explain away crime. We're willing to explain away cheating. We're willing to explain away all types of unsavory things just so people can get a second chance at life. But, Pete Rose is the exception. He's the one person that gets condemned for life while this sport still prospers. And by the way, this man contributed more to the sport than he ever took away from it. We saw evidence of that when he was honored at Yankee Stadium. My Lord, people are still holding it against Jim Gray because of Jim Gray simply asking him the question, because of the moment, the way the game was being celebrated, the fact that fans across the nation were celebrating Pete Rose. For God's sake, the New York Yankees had an attitude with a reporter because they asked Pete Rose a question. You've got players in Major League Baseball who are showing more compassion than the rest of us. You've got fans across the globe who are showing more compassion than us. But we want to stand up here and stick out our chest and act like we're holier than thou and condemn this man to a life sentence. I mean, this is some ridiculous nonsense. If we're going to be this way, then be this way across the board. Fire Mark McGwire today. Never allow Barry Bonds back in Major League Baseball. Get on Sammy Sosa for all of a sudden needed an interpreter when he showed up on Capitol Hill talking about Major League Baseball has been very, very good to me. Get on everybody. Why should Alex Rodriguez be allowed to come back and collect 3 years and $64 million when he knowingly cheated, not just once, but multiple times, and he tried to throw everybody under the bus, even in a criminal fashion, so he could sit there and get back in Major League Baseball or never have to leave. But suddenly we're going to sit there and judge Pete Rose after 25 years. Where is our shame? Enough. Somebody needs to show some level of compassion. Nobody is defending Pete Rose. We know he was wrong, but this is no longer about Pete Rose. This is an issue about us as a society and our willingness to be compassionate. The man was a gambling addict. He gambled. He had a problem. If we can give criminals a pass, cheaters a pass, and say they had a problem to explain away everything, how come the same does not apply to this man? It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, and I think we all should be ashamed of ourselves to even try to have this conversation. Put that man in a Hall of Fame, and damn it, allow him to come back and earn some kind of a living. I don't care if it's for being a ball boy in Major League Baseball, but to allow these other guys to collect all of this money and a guy that contributed millions, not just in dollars, but in a fan base to the sport of Major League Baseball and to be ignored, to me, it's criminal. It's wrong.
Right now, Skip Bayless is curled up in a fetal position, thinking, "Oh my goodness, what am I in for today?"
That one goes in the time capsule.
Tremendous, Stephen A.
Fantastic,
tremendous. Thank you so much, my friend. See you later, Stephen A. Smith. First Take every morning, right after us on ESPN.
He and I agree that you meet face to face with him, so that's a discussion. But I had been with you on keeping him out of baseball. He's really making me think about that.
Well, let's think about it.
Yeah.
So let's think about it. So the gambling is the death penalty in sports.
Yes, it is.
We get that. And we understand the reason why. Because, and look, you can get hooked up with gambling. These guys are allowed to gamble on other things.
Right.
I mean, my first reaction to Steve was going to be, well, look, he can gamble on horse racing, which he did all the time.
Right.
You can bet on football games and basketball games and all this. But remember, you may remember many, many years ago, I had the first interview when he got out of jail of the central figure in the Arizona State University point shaving scandal.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And it was through a connection that I knew him. And he told me the story of how that began. And it was the simplest thing in the world. The point guard on the team, this guy was a low-level bookie on a college campus. The point guard on the team bet a couple of games with him, lost a few bucks. I mean, we're not talking about millions.
Right.
We're talking about, lost a couple of $1,000. And one day he said, man, I wish there was some way I could figure out a way not to have to pay you this money. And the two of them, as he told me, looked each other in the eye, and in that instant,
they knew
the plan was born.
Yeah.
So you get involved with the wrong people. You don't have to be betting on your own sport.
Right.
But the next thing you know, he's shaving points, and the next thing you know, a lot of people wind up going to jail. So I guess it's two separate questions. Do you think Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame, which has been the hot-button topic question in sports talk for 20 years? And separately, does Stephen A. bring up a point that will convince many, including maybe us, that the time has come after 25 years? Just let him back in.
You know what?
Someone wants to hire him, let him hire him.
I'm not going to lie. I think he's changed my mind. I mean, thinking about it as he was going through that, and the beauty is Stephen A. speaks for a while, so you can have a lot of thoughts. And the person who benefited the most from that rant was Frank Caliendo for all the material he just got. Right. Frank is at home very happy. But I think there is something, too, if you're going to give him the put him up to be in the Hall, and you put him, for lack of a better term, back in baseball, then he should be afforded everything that comes with being back in baseball. And if that's working in baseball, then so be it. We get guys, the only time you hear it is, life without possibility of parole, but guys get the long sentences or even life, but have the possibility of parole over years. Maybe, they do get
How
parole.
old is Pete? Pete is 73, 74, I think.
Because we all know what the fear is, that they're going to do this, after
Would someone
he
hire him to be a manager?
Well, I don't know about a manager,
I don't either.
But would someone hire
He's how
them?
old? 73.
Would someone hire them to be part of their organization? We see the Raiders are...
someone would hire him to do something immediately.
Well, that's exactly right.
So, of course.
The bottom line is...
I'm just talking about a really important job, a managerial job, something like that.
I don't think he's going to get that. But
I think that ship has sailed.
Yeah, I do too. But I think he'd be involved in the game. And I think Stephen A. makes a great point. If you're going to put him back in, then he should enjoy all the fruits of that. That's a pretty valid point. Enough to, I'm not usually a waffler. I leave that to you.
It's not waffling. Changing your mind is not waffling. Well, it is a sign of intelligence and open-mindedness.
Every now and then is not waffling. Changing your mind 8 times during a show is waffling.
Well, perhaps.
Yeah.
But listen,
this one is I
Stephen A. and I look. Let me just put that in a different perspective, because I hate it when people say that. Oh, you change your mind, you're wishy-washy. Stephen A. and I had a difference of opinion. He and I can have a debate over something, and one of two things will happen. Either I will reaffirm my own position, or I will learn something. He made me look at it from a different perspective. I'm not sure I've changed my mind, but I'm open to it. Yeah. I'm thinking about it. And that, to me, that's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of open-mindedness.
You're getting all serious on me, okay? We're just joking around when you used to change your mind.
Let's get back to the serious part.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, when he doesn't want to joke,
because I think that if you're taking Pete off the banned list, you probably are opening the door to everything.
Sure you are.
So do they announce that? Could you imagine that? We're all there. We'll be in Cincinnati for the All-Star game. We just found out yesterday, 2 days ago. We're going to be there. Mm-hmm. So we'll be in Cincinnati for the All-Star game. Can you imagine if they all those All-Stars walk out there and they get out there and make an announcement? Ladies and gentlemen, we are announcing tonight the reinstatement of Peter Edward Rose to Major League Baseball. Could you imagine that?
Oh, listen, he's already – how well is he going to be received already if the situation stays the same?
See, I don't think the other players would like it, though. I don't think most of the Hall of Famers want him.
Well, that's why even Pete said he thinks that he wants it to go to the writers, because he thinks if it goes to the Veterans Committee, he doesn't have a shot. Because I'm with you. You get guys that are talking about guys that are using PEDs, and they want them nowhere near the Hall. And if it gets us, they're not going to put them in the Hall. We already know if you get to that point, that's a tough crew. That's a tough nut to crack there to get in from the Veterans Committee. So I think I agree with Pete. I think he'd have a tough time there, but I think it should start with the writers. And I'm going to Stephen A. I think he changed my mind. I think if you're going to reinstate him, that you reinstate him. He's back in baseball.
The best of Mike and Mike.
All right, Stephen A. just got everybody talking, and a lot of people are on his side. So we'll get to that and more. We're Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance, and here in studio with their Subway Fresh Take, the stars of His and Hers, every day at noon on ESPN2 Eastern Time, and the podcast as well, His and Hers, Michael Smith and Jemele Hill. And before we get to anything else, let me just say, Michael, I saw you guys posted it as a Vine. The behind-the-back pass that you threw to Magic Johnson when he was in studio with you the other day was phenomenal, because I know that studio. That's a pretty small room. Like they're in the old ESPN studio. That's a confined little space. Jemele is sitting right there between the two of you.
Life,
you went behind the back. Jemele is sort of sliding her chair out of the way in a moment of
Fear.
Understandable fear.
Yeah, I whipped it right to him.
You did. You delivered a very nice pass.
I got a little bit of athletic ability hidden deep, and I show it every now and then.
That had to be cool to do.
You only live once.
Yeah.
I'm like, Magic Johnson's on the show. I'm throwing a no-look pass to Magic.
He seemed excited. I mean, he seemed impressed.
So phenomenal. He's so fun.
great, isn't he?
Yeah, he's phenomenal. I thought, but I was telling Mike, wouldn't you rather have been on the receiving end of the no-look passes?
I got both.
Yeah.
I got one of each.
Okay.
So, yes, absolutely.
Put that in the repertoire. It was
Absolutely.
impressive that he had listened to the show when we were on with you guys, and Eli Manning called in and told the story of how Mike beat him in high school, and he started off the segment that way, saying, you really did beat Eli Manning.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a proud athletic moment.
So it seems like you try and do it maybe on purpose and not try and get that athletic career out there and just what you were.
Yeah, I need all the credibility I can get. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Me too. Mike and Mike, they're here with their Subway Fresh Take. Mike and Jemele at Subway. You can make every morning the best morning ever with freshly made breakfast sandwiches. Subway, eat fresh. Okay, you guys were in makeup, so you didn't get to hear Stephen A. We have a couple of different topics on the table this morning. Let's take them in order.
All right.
Let's start with the first part of the Pete Rose. We had Rob Manfred in here last week. I'm not sure if you guys had him when he was in the studio, but he was here at ESPN last week, and we had him in, and I asked him, are you expecting to have a conversation with Pete Rose? And this is what he said.
I have heard from his lawyer, and I do anticipate having a conversation about that. I've been very careful not to say anything about the merits of it because ultimately I'll have to make a decision there. But it's a conversation that I expect we'll have.
Okay, and now there are stories all over the news today that Pete Rose has come out and said he wants desperately to meet with Rob Manfred, which I understand. Here's what I feel, okay? When you've got a guy who is on the ballot, pick any player who's, like a borderline player for their candidacy for the Hall of Fame.
Okay.
I don't need to meet with that guy to decide whether I'm voting for him or not. His body of work is complete. In my opinion, Pete Rose's body of work is complete. His playing career, which was clearly Hall of Fame worthy, is complete. And the way he has handled his banishment, which has been an embarrassment, is also complete. He lied again, threw his friends under the bus, let his friends, legendary baseball-playing friends, lie for him and come out of it looking like fools, and then ultimately told the truth by selling a book, and now makes commercials making jokes about the fact that he's not in the Hall of Fame. I get it, he's got to make a living, but whatever. The point I'm making is, there's nothing Pete Rose is going to say to me in a meeting that is going to change my mind. I either am going to decide to put him in the Hall of Fame or allow him to begin the process or not. I personally would not need to take a meeting with him to make up my mind on his candidacy for the Hall of Fame, and Golic disagrees.
I'll make mine quick. There's no way I'm making a decision like this without looking the man in the eye, even though I probably know what he's going to say. I'm just not going to do it. That's all I have to say. I won't try and jade you any more than that. Jemele?
I think I probably agree with you a little bit more. And I hear what you're saying, Greeny. At this point, the body of work is what it is. And that includes what he's done after the admission and post-career and all that. But I do think that there's a reason why they say time heals all wounds. And sometimes when you meet with them face-to-face, you're able to get a better sense of the person. Because I don't know how well Rob, I'm sure they've met each other in passing. I don't know how well they know each other. And maybe if Rob Manfred is on the fence about it, or maybe if he's still unsure, maybe that meeting will allow him to feel more comfortable about whatever decision he makes, whether it be to welcome him back into baseball or not. So I could see a meeting being necessary. I don't know that it'll necessarily be helpful for Pete Rose, but I could see it being necessary.
Well, so you bring up an interesting secondary part of this, because Stephen A. called in, and he took it to a totally different place. Mm-hmm. Because I have Mike and I have both had the long-standing position that Pete should be allowed to go in the Hall of Fame, but should not be allowed to come back and work in baseball again. That lifetime, and that's what we thought. But Stephen A. disagreed, and about a 4-minute fascinating monologue in which he convinced a lot of people.
He changed my mind, too. I'm not going to lie. I don't change my mind a lot, but he changed my mind.
What's the Cliff Notes version?
Well, the Cliff Notes version is that at some point you have paid the penalty, you have paid the price, you served a life sentence, but you're eligible for parole, and at some point give the guy a break and let him back into baseball. Let him come back to baseball beyond the Hall of Fame. Let him come back to baseball.
All the way
there.
Pete Rose
and
back. Okay.
I think he almost.
He seems to have convinced Mike.
He is absolutely convinced me. To the point now where if you put him back in the game, you let him enjoy all the fruits of that. And if that means deployment by a team, so be it.
I'm fine either way, to be honest with you. And I hate to be wishy-washy about it, but look, if you permit me to be morbid for the purposes of making this point, one day Pete Rose is no longer going to be with us. And somebody 30 years from now may decide, you know what, those 4,000 still look pretty damn good. Let's put him in the Hall of Fame posthumously. Can't meet with him then. You know, it's like at a certain point he needs to be honored for what he did on the diamond, period. And if Rob Manfred wants to meet with him, Golic, I get what you're saying. It's a huge decision. It feels like you're not doing your due diligence. But, Greeny, I'm more with you. It's like, what's the point? You know the facts. You're not going to beat a confession out of him. He's already confessed to betting on baseball. So I would let him back in. And if you mentioned earlier that the Reds are hosting the All-Star game. He's going to be a part of the festivities. It seems like the tide has turned more to his favor. I think the fans will be okay with it. So if you're Rob Manfred, it's not like you have an ongoing feud with Pete Rose the way, say, Bud Selig or Rob Manfred, for that matter, had with an Alex Rodriguez. Alex Rodriguez meeting with the Yankees and trying to mend fences as best as possible made sense because they have to go forward together. You're simply talking about putting him on a writer's ballot and honoring what he did on the diamond, which cannot be disputed.
A comparison that Stephen A. then brought up was to all of the PED use and the punishments and how they are comparatively speaking, they are very light to the gambling thing.
And they work in the league, a.k.a. Mark McGwire.
Right. That's what I was thinking of.
And a lot of players who are still playing.
Right.
Yes. Alex Rodriguez and Ryan Braun and many others are actually going to be on the field when this season begins. There isn't an apples-to-apples comparison there because they have determined, and if you want to change that around, we can have that discussion, but they have determined that the use of performance-enhancing drugs is worthy of this penalty, and gambling is the one thing that is the professional death penalty in all of sports. And that, at least to this point, has not changed.
Well, that's what I was thinking as listening to all of you. Is there an egregious enough crime against the game that gets to the integrity of the game that a player can commit that they can never be forgiven for? Is there one? Because if gambling is supposed to be that, betting on your own team, betting on other teams, however you want to slice it, then if that is in fact the death penalty and we're all comfortable with that and we all say, yeah, this is it, then why are we letting Pete Rose back in the game? Why should he enjoy the fruits of his labor? And because there has to be a penalty at some point. I'm not suggesting he is, but like, what is our threshold? Because if that's the case, then what's the point of even having these penalties? Because if ultimately you will pay a price, he did pay a personal price for sure with his integrity and how people looked at him for a while. Then we're ultimately saying, well, there's nothing you can do to the game that you won't ultimately be forgiven for.
Well, I guess that's a case-by-case individual basis. I mean, like, it's an integrity issue, right?
Yeah.
Is that what gambling boils down to?
Shouldn't we hold sacred these integrity issues?
But aren't PEDs an integrity issue as well?
Yes, they are.
So
which is why some of those guys are not in the Hall of Fame.
But some of them are still playing, and some of them may eventually end up in the Hall of Fame as the Baseball Writers Association of America turns over the years. We'll see how that goes.
I'm just trying to figure out what's our line.
Well, to answer your question, Jemele, I would think the one thing that would be the most egregious and that you could never forgive would be throwing a game, right, Mike? I mean, if you throw a game, then there's nothing.
There are those that say, oh, yeah, I was betting on the game, but I was betting for our team to win. But if you're throwing it to lose, there's nothing worse than that. And to your point quickly I remember the NFL, the worst penalty used to be banishment for life, but then the line after that would be with the possibility of reinstatement, after a set amount of time. So even a life sentence, you get prisoners, convicts, life without parole, but you do get life where there can be parole, and over years, could be decades, that someone may sit in front of a parole board and it may be forgiven and they may be able to move on.
I guess what I'm saying is that I know that people these days that continue to say that they would not allow Pete Rose back into the game, that to some degree that, they're criticizing, saying, oh, forgive him, let him back in. And over time, people always become more sympathetic figures, correct?
That's true.
But I'm okay if people still feel that way because I understand what he did is one of those cardinal sins that you just can't commit regarding baseball.
Well, I guess. But at this point, what's the point? That's how I would put it. I mean, it's just continuing the punishment. His 4,000 plus hits, that's part of baseball history.
Oh, it is.
And, we saw it, can't be taken away. His mark on the game cannot be erased, whether he's in the Hall of Fame.
The argument on the other side of that quickly, though, also is that you cannot possibly have mishandled the 25 subsequent years any more than he has either. It's one thing to show remorse and all that kind of stuff. He hasn't.
Mike and Mike.
The stars of his and hers, Michael Smith and Jemele Hill. You see them every day noon on ESPN2, and of course the podcast his and hers as well. And they're going to turn the tables on us here in a couple of minutes. We'll do next question. They've got a bunch of questions for us. We don't know what they are, and we'll enjoy that. But one thing we've not gotten to this morning, and shame on us, on Mike and me, and let's all of us take a moment.
The other topic blew up a bit, but we can't. We have to spend some time talking about it.
To remember Jerry Tarkanian, Tark the Shark, who was one of the truly iconic, enormous, larger-than-life figures in college basketball for a really long time. And I'll make this statement as one. College basketball has changed so much, and I still enjoy and love watching college hoops, but it isn't what it was. And college basketball, there was a time when it was my favorite sport. And at the time that it was my favorite sport, UNLV was the best team. And those back-to-back years when they won the title and then somehow lost to Duke in the Final Four.
I still can't believe it.
And again, I literally still cannot believe that happened. That's the best team I ever saw. I'm not old enough to have seen the great wooden teams or anything like that. So, Jemele, I'll start with you. In my lifetime, those back-to-back years, what they did to Duke the year before that in the championship game, it was embarrassing. And so, to me, those were the best college basketball teams I've ever seen.
And that's why now I thought about this, and especially in light of Jerry Tarkanian's passing. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about Kentucky being undefeated this year. They clearly look like the most talented team in the country. But when word first got out that he was sick, I thought about those UNLV teams in light of what we're seeing with this Kentucky team. And I hate to sound like, I guess once, like my parents sounded before and other people that you hear talk about the teams they saw in their era, but these teams today, they don't stand up to like a UNLV where you have 4 or 5 NBA players on one team, Stacey Augmon, Greg Anthony, Larry Johnson, Anderson Hunt. I mean, that team was loaded.
A 7-foot center named Greg Ackles.
That team was absolutely loaded, and it was the style of play, too. And I know, no disrespect to the Fab Five, and they clearly ushered in a different sort of type of basketball being played, and obviously what they meant culturally. But UNLV, before there was a Fab Five, there was UNLV, and they did a lot of the things. The Fab Five was the manifestation, I think, of UNLV in a lot of ways. That team was intimidating. They played defense incredibly. And I always felt like Jerry Tarkanian in many ways got a bad rap. People just thought that, not that he rolled the balls out, but to some degree he didn't get enough respect as a true coach, that he just somehow was able to manage all these, brash personalities, and that was more or less his gift. But he was a really good coach from a tactical standpoint.
Yeah, you hit it on the head, Jemele, with the Fab Five comparison. That's what I've been thinking about since Jerry Tarkanian passed away, was the cultural importance of UNLV. Because, I was about 11, 12 years old, when UNLV was at its height. And they were the anti-Duke. Everybody grew up, you were raised to hate Duke. And the Fab Five, they were the rebellious players. Jerry Tarkanian was the rebellious coach. If anybody had the perfect mascot, it was the Running Rebels, because they were the anti-Duke. And I mean, even growing up in New Orleans, there was a rap group called UNLV. That's how important they were just culturally. So, just to look at his career and what he accomplished. I mean, SportsCenter threw up his year-by-year records, and you forget, to your point, just how good and successful a coach he was. I wish it would have worked out better for him on the NBA level. Unfortunately, only lasted 20 games with the Spurs.
A couple of months there with the Spurs, he was done. But UNLV, 19 seasons, what, an 83% winning clip, was incredible. And here's the comparison I make. I go to the NBA for the comparison, because you have your teams like Kentucky this year, which everybody wonders if they'll go undefeated. What do you talk about when you talk about them? Defense, right? Then you have your passing teams. You even go back, when we're talking about the legendary Dean Smith, about when you score that bucket, make sure you point to your passer. The team aspect of everything. You know what UNLV was? They were the Lakers. They were Showtime. They were Showtime. And we haven't had anything like that, I don't believe, unless I'm missing something, that was that Showtime. Unfortunately, the other part that has to come with it, and they were the running Rebels, and maybe that fit because, Tark was usually running from the NCAA, in what went on. That's just part of the story. But what they were on the field, that's what I thought of when I think back and look at it, and you watch the highlights and see him play. I think that's Showtime. That's college version of Showtime right there.
Somebody score 105 in college nowadays, the way they did in the national title game. Like, wow,
3 games
that's 6 overtimes.
And the reality of the situation is that in this day and age, Larry Johnson would never have played more than 1 year. Stacey Augmon would never have played more than 1. Those guys would have gone right to the pros, and that's what this stuff is about. You keep those teams together. But that was to me college basketball at its apex. You know, that was just a little bit removed. I mean, it's not all that far removed from Georgetown and those teams there as well. College basketball was, to me, at that point, it was my favorite sport. College basketball was tremendous. It felt like there was a great game every night. Absolutely. Absolutely. I remember UNLV playing Arkansas that year, and Arkansas had a great team, and there was all this build-up for that game, and UNLV beat them by like 35 points. They were a great team. They were the best team I ever saw. Best college basketball team I ever saw. I still can't believe they didn't win back-to-back championships. All right, let's do this. Jemele and Mike are here. Let's do next question. It's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. They have prepared, unbeknownst to us, a variety of questions for us. And they can go anywhere they want, and we will sit here and we will answer them. So next question, whichever one of you wants to start, by all means, the floor is yours.
Okay, well, Greeny, this is for you. I know you're a big golfer.
Yeah.
And how much you love the sport and love playing it. Here's a would you rather. Would you rather have a membership at Augusta for 1 year or be commissioner of baseball for a full season?
I would rather be commissioner of baseball for a full season. I would love to.
I am shocked you said that.
I would love to play Augusta one time in my life because I love the golf course.
Okay. I'm shocked you've never played it.
I love the idea. I've never played it. I'd love the chance to play it.
He brings that up a lot, hoping at some point we'll get
somebody will hook him up.
Because if you go, I go with you. That's kind of the,
Are you listening?
Y'all been on Letterman 11 times.
Yeah.
But
you
never
can't
played
get in
Augusta. Wow.
I have not. I've not.
There you
managed.
go.
I know media members that are playing Augusta.
I'm shocked.
I would
You guys
actually go
have done
play Augusta
everything.
with you, even though you wouldn't want me to play.
I would much rather play Augusta without you, to be completely honest with you. But I would. There are other places that I would sooner join if I could get a membership in certain places. There are others that I would join before I would do that, and I would love to be the commissioner of baseball because I think they need me. Although I think that Rob Manfred, I am very impressed. Here's what I like. All right, we've had turnover in 2 of the 3 major commissionerships in sports in very recent times. And both Adam Silver and Rob Manfred feel to me like they have walked in with their ears very much open. You know, they both succeeded the guys that they worked under and worked for, and I think they have to respectfully follow them. They can't just walk in one day and say, okay, everything David did, I'm changing. And the same thing with Manfred now with Bud. But I think they're both very open-minded to a lot of significant change, and I think you are going to see Rob Manfred oversee a lot of very significant change.
Way too serious for me. I'm taking the commissioner of baseball for a year because I won't be able to really implement anything for a year, and I'll fly around in their plane all year long.
All the hot dogs,
trips everywhere on that
all the
private plane.
ballpark, Franks.
So that's the deal for me.
If you offered me membership at Pine Valley, we'd have a different conversation.
Oh, okay.
Next question.
All right, this one, I'll start with Golic on this one. You guys had another great moment. Mike, you joked that if you played Augusta, you would want to play without Golic. Yes. You guys have always kind of coached us and been supportive of us as, you know, the up-and-coming TV married couple, if you will. So Valentine's Day is around the corner. Who's more likely to get the other one a Valentine's Day gift, and what would it be, Mike Golic?
I think Greeny would probably get me something, but before I would. But if I were to get him something, I would get him a card and a lovely parting gift that said "Thanks for the memories" and end this thing.
I didn't expect you to have to break up with somebody on Valentine's Day.
Well, it'd be over chocolate.
You know, we had one night. I'll tell you this. I'll tell the story. We were doing a speaking engagement at a school. And I don't know, maybe Mike was drunk because he said the nicest thing you've ever heard. He said, you know, Greeny and I were very different guys, but, you know, the truth of the matter is I would take a bullet for the guy.
Yeah.
He said that about me.
I did. I meant it.
And I said, well, then, for the record, if anyone here is planning on shooting one of us, we both agree it should be him.
Yeah.
And so that I think I would be more likely to. I think most people would think I'd be more likely to get you a gift, I think you would probably be more likely to get me a gift.
Greeny always wants to dress me better. And he always wants to take me to his places where, you know, the bit larger size is a schmedium. Right. We're not getting it over my calf, and he's trying to put me in this stuff. So that's the amazing.
You know what's
part.
really awkward is when you get a gift for somebody and they don't get one for you. Has that ever happened between the two of you? Like you've gotten a gift for an occasion and Golic is like, oh, I forgot, or I wasn't thinking about you.
We just basically, and this was kind of unspoken. We just basically don't get gifts for one another.
No.
That way we'll never hurt each other's feelings.
Yeah.
All right.
And on most gift-giving occasions, we just stay the heck away from each other.
You're off.
Yeah. That's just a lesson for the two of you.
Okay.
Because once you start doing it, then it's
that ship has sailed.
Yeah, we do it kind of randomly. Like well, like for example, for my birthday, which is in December, Mike got me a really nice bottle of tequila because he knows I like tequila. And
that's right. I tweeted about sharing it. You said you wouldn't share it with me.
No, sorry.
That was cold.
Hey, you got to draw a line somewhere, right? And he got me this this portable cloud device because he knows every time I travel, I'm electronics heavy. Just like, I think it was your birthday, I got you the Superman robe.
Yes.
Yes, so like
See, you're locked in though now.
Yeah.
You're locked in.
And you start running out of ideas.
I don't have that problem.
Yeah.
We just say, hey, happy birthday. That's if we remember.
Golic is also a terrible gift giver. He gave his wife, Jemele, you tell me how awful the gift. For Mother's Day, he gave his wife a massage chair.
That's a great gift.
It's a great gift. Except for the fact that she never sat in it once. She came home that day and found Golic asleep in it.
She hated it. Me and the boys went shopping for her. We all sat in them, and I think it was Sharper Image or whatever. Yeah. We all loved them.
I think that's very practical.
Let's get it for Mom.
Yeah, we got the same struggle, Golic. I struggle with getting the missus gifts, man.
I thought that was it when I brought that home.
You know what she would have probably loved if you sent her to the spa and she was able to get an hour or 2 hour long sweet.
But you can do that anytime.
I've done that before. Right. Here, I thought this is going to be good for both of us. I'm going to get him a
that's where you messed up.
No, this is just in my own mind.
Oh, okay.
She's going to love this, and I'm going to, you know what's going to happen on that chair. You know
okay.
You know what I'm talking about? Hey, kids, stay after school.
Oh, my goodness. As if seeing your butt wasn't enough.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
Mike and Mike, we're brought to you in part by Tommy John. Go to TommyJohn.com right now to upgrade your underwear. And don't forget to tune in to Mike and Mike Live tomorrow morning from New York for coverage of the 2015 NBA All-Star Game. Next question continues. Jemele.
Okay, I want to start with you, Greeny. As you know, the Powerball was over $500 million.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's say you win the Powerball. What's your first major purchase?
An island of some kind. I would love to own. No, I take it back. How much is it again?
It was $524 million.
I would give.
You're quitting, right? Hey, let's establish that. You're quitting, right?
You wouldn't quit.
Right.
I don't believe
it would
that.
be his and hers in the morning. I'll tell you that right now.
You wouldn't quit.
Oh, I would quit in the blink of an eye.
Are you kidding? I would honor the rest of my contract.
No, you would not.
I wouldn't be back.
Are you kidding?
Y'all would quit?
Oh, no, I would do the rest of my contract, and then I'd never see any of you people again.
No. You just call Adnan. What I would really like more than anything, and that's not enough money to do it, but it might be enough money that I could put together a group to do it. And I would love to buy the Jets. I would love to own.
I'd love to see
the
you
New
on
York
the Jets.
That would be my life dream.
You say that because my wife has said that since she was young, always been into sports. First of all, if we won this, she would take the money, so it really wouldn't be my choice of what we want to do.
Pretty much.
She would do exactly that as well. Not the Jets per se.
What team would she buy?
I don't know. You know, maybe she would go in with it. She would love to own a sports team.
Wow.
Absolutely.
And I'd be the worst owner in the world. I'd be making trades. I'd make Jerry Jones look like he doesn't even know what's going on in that team. I would be calling plays. I'd have this texting down to the sideline. Why can't owners do that?
Yeah,
I own this team.
But see, you're not to rain on your parade, but once you buy the team, then you have to operate the team.
I would love operating the team.
You got the money to do that?
Well, I mean, I need some. I need investors in.
I
got $500 million to start with.
We would pool our money together, and Greeny and my wife would own an NFL team. God help that team.
I don't think it's enough. So I don't know if that's a good answer because $500 million isn't enough.
God help that team.
Piece of the Jets.
The Jets can't be any worse.
That would be my dream. Would be to own the Jets.
What about you, Golic?
Oh my God! I would never walk into a commercial airport again.
Oh,
never.
Private jet life.
It's the one thing we've gotten to do every now and then. We've been fortunate enough or a place we've had to go. They sent us
the G5,
a plane
G6
for us, right? Yeah. So we've done it a couple of times. Certainly, it's nothing I could do a lot without question. But it unbelievably spoils you. Mm-hmm. So I'm not in that category to do that all the time, but if all of a sudden I were to have that money, I would never have to walk through security again.
I've flown a private plane one time. No other way to fly if you could afford it.
It changes you, doesn't
Absolutely.
it?
I never have. Is this thing on? I've never flown a private jet.
So I haven't played Augusta, and Jemele, so if someone has a plane and wants to fly us to Augusta.
Twitter mentions about to implode. I will jet you around the world, girl.
Everybody listening, talk show host problems, huh?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Is the mid still selling?
Yeah.
All right, go ahead. What's the next?
Oh, my goodness. Wait till I explain to you what that means. Anyway.
Yeah. Go ahead. You did. You taught it to me. You told me to use it. Did I use it correctly? Was that not an appropriate mention of it?
Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance.
It doesn't seem to be. You know what?
Greeny with the fresh take of all fresh takes.
I'm going to need to be filled in on this later on.
You
don't. You need plausible deniability.
Okay, all right, even better.
Hey, we taking a break? I'm trying to save y'all, man. Y'all ain't won the Powerball. I'm trying to save
the next question.
All right, next question, Mike.
I thought that's what you told me to say.
Leave it be.
Okay.
Oh, that was so awesome. That was better than when you asked if her hair was real. Let's turn to All-Star Weekend. You guys are once again coaching both teams.
Yes.
Greeny, you are with Carmelo Anthony.
Yes.
Golic, you are with Spike Lee.
Yes.
I was reading, I think it was USA Today, had a post about you guys coaching philosophies. You famously intentionally walked Wade Boggs in a celebrity softball game that you guys managed.
Horrific.
So to Golic, to what lengths would you go to win Friday night's celebrity
That's
game?
the thing. I'm way different than Greeny. This is a celebrity. This is supposed to be a fun game. So
I like Greeny's approach.
Now, what's changed in that article, this is before I really saw my lineup. I said I would just bomb threes. When you got Chris Mullin, you can shoot some threes. Skylar Diggins can do that as well. But I found out some of my celebrities in here this kid, Ansel Elgort, who Greeny's daughter talks about from Fault in Our Stars and Divergent. He's like this heartthrob. But forgetting that, he's 6'4". Okay? Win Butler is the singer for Arcade Fire, won a Grammy in 2011.
Yeah.
Great vocalist, a great group, the whole deal. He's 6'4.5".
Jeez.
Okay, so you got some size.
I now have gone to an inside tower.
You got some trees.
We are going to pound the paint.
Yeah.
Is what we are going to do. We're going to have Skylar Diggins dishing dimes, Monet Davis dishing dimes.
And I saw her play last week, by the way. She's pretty good.
So they'll be coming off screens either.
But that's your strategy. But when I say to what lengths would you go, for instance, like you saw, I think it was the Rockets last night, basically hacking DeAndre Jordan. Okay, sending him to the line. I think he had 26 free throws for the game or something like that.
Right.
Would you hack, if it was a close game down a stretch?
Yes.
Would you muddy up the game and dirty it up and mess it up by hacking people?
Yeah, I put Kevin Hart on the free throw line. I'll say it right now. I'll look in the camera and I'll say it to you, Kevin Hart. I'm putting you on the free throw line because you know what? Under pressure, you'll crack.
Ooh.
There you go.
Well, we already know, Greeny, that you're going to go through whatever lengths to win this game.
I think you order an intentional foul. You sweep the leg.
He's going to send out Carmelo.
I'm going to try and send Carmelo out there if I can.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. That's a sound strategy. So I don't blame you for that. But really, how are you guys going to make a side wager? It's got to be something else in it, right? You got to add some
You know what? Here's my thought on that. I've wagered enough and lost.
Oh, well, that is true.
You want the evidence of that with the butt photo shirt, so I think we're going to move on from that. We'll give you next question.
All right. I'll start with you, Golic, on this one. So the favorite, in terms of your favorite song of the year, you saw all the Grammy controversy. Just wondering, Beyonce or Beck?
Listen, I have no problem with Beck and winning it. Now, I'm a huge Beyonce fan. I'll be honest. I know of more of Beyonce than I do of Beck.
You didn't know Beck had an album. I didn't either. I got to be honest.
I certainly knew of Beck. I absolutely
know who he is.
Beck,
I had no idea he had an album.
Beyonce more than that. And I'll tell you what, getting into that, Kanye, while he may be an unbelievable, talented artist, it's just a Bush League, childish, immature, classless, ridiculous, stupid, dumb, whatever you want to call it, move. And I loved Brandon Browner from the New England Patriots, the big old 6'4", 220-pound cornerback, said he wishes he was on stage and he would have popped Kanye for it. And I tell you, I just can't stand what he did. Sorry,
he said he'd been rapping through the wire.
Exactly. I mean, it was just a classless, low-brow, as if. Plus, to continue this, as if Beyonce needs anybody to stand up for her. Okay, Kanye, sit down, shut up. All right, that's my thought on that.
And I understand that as an artist, I think the point he was trying to make, he didn't make well. No. And unfortunately it came at the expense of somebody else who was living out, I'm sure it was one of their dreams. I mean, every artist dreams of winning a Grammy. Sure. And there are a lot of artists, at least from what I've gleaned from the entertainment coverage, that are upset that the Grammys, they will tease having Beyonce on and Kanye on, and yet when it comes to the actual awards, and especially when you look at the history of the Grammys, those types of artists are being left out, and the awards are going to Beck. Okay, I get it. I understand his perspective, but the way that he's chosen to try to make people aware of the issue, I think, has been pretty classless.
Oh, without a doubt. He just thinks he can steamroll everybody. It's so, again, while a talented artist, no doubt about it, to put it more your way he's sending his message is completely Bush League.
We got time for one more?
Go ahead, one more quick.
Real quick, because Nick Young been telling jokes about dolphins trying to kill him. Apparently, that might have been a ripoff of Kevin Hart's joke. Scariest animal encounter, Greenie. Is it the cow that got your shoes recently?
Well,
the cow?
I was defecated on by a cow. The scariest thing that ever happened to me was when I was 6 years old, and I was at my friend Mark Hahn's house, and we were wrestling, and his little dog named Smokey, who, I mean, it might be up to your ankle, thought I was fighting him, and he came over and he bit me, and I was afraid of dogs basically my entire life as a result of that. So while that dog probably could not hurt a small child, which I was at the time, it actually scared me to death.
Swimming, for me, it was swimming in an area where you're swimming in an ocean or an area where there can be certain things swimming around. I saw a fin. It was a dolphin. It was a dolphin.
I thought it was a shark.
Let me tell you, I mean, so I don't go.
Fastest you ever swim.
I mean, I'm done. That's the shark's world, not mine. So I thought it was. So the thought that a shark was swimming anywhere around me just froze me.
The fact that Greenie remembers 6 years old. So apparently, I got to get to the bottom of this real quick. This rapper, I know Greenie, you know him. I know he's in your iPod or he's in your phone. Currency. This rapper, I'm joking. Currency is from New Orleans. I believe we went to school around the same time. He claims, just out of the blue, this is random. He claims I got bit by a horse in junior high school. I don't remember this.
He claims that you got bit by a horse?
He's telling me.
And it made its way on the internet.
Yeah, everybody's like, you don't remember this.
No, I think that would be something I remember.
This is middle school.
Yeah.
Greenie's saying he remembers something that's 6 years old.
I would think this is something I would remember.
I would think so as well. Did you call him out?
I'm like, dude, he says that his mom was a chaperone on a field trip and I got bit by a horse. And I'm like, okay.
I can see that happening to you.
Yeah, sure. but I don't remember it.
Yeah.
Maybe you suppressed it.
Maybe so.
You know?
Maybe so. But Currency's coming on the podcast or the show very soon.
There you go.
So we get to the bottom of this.
Explain himself.
Yeah. We have to let the TV guys who get set to do your show. Again, it's His and Hers, noon Eastern on ESPN2 every weekday, and the podcast His and Hers on ESPNradio.com and on iTunes. You guys are the best.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Love the T-shirts, as always.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Mike and Mike.
It's always such a pleasure when we get a chance to talk to Jalen Rose. Don't get to do it often enough. Star of ESPN's NBA Countdown and the Grantland Basketball Hour. Our buddy Jalen's on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline. Good morning, Jalen.
Always a pleasure, gentlemen. Thanks for having me on.
Always our pleasure. And before we get to the events of this weekend and everything else, I did want to get your perspective. I know you commented on it last night, because a lot of people remember the Fab Five and feel as though those UNLV running Rebels teams that came right before your Fab Five at Michigan were really in some ways an inspiration or a precursor or whatever the right word for it is for what you guys did. And so on the occasion, on the day after we lose Jerry Tarkanian, what were your thoughts on that yesterday and your recollections of that UNLV team and what it meant to your Fab Five group?
Very sad day in the sport of basketball. Anytime you lose not only a great coach, but a great leader like Tarkanian, who was an innovator as it related to work ethic and practice, the amoeba defense, taking chances on the underdog, whether it was a junior college prospect or an inner city prospect. Anderson Hunt, who was the 1990 Finals 4 MVP, actually is a Detroit Southwestern alumnus like myself. So I was a UNLV recruit, and to watch that team with Larry Johnson, Stacey Augmon, and Greg Anthony, I idolized that team to the point where when they beat Duke and when they lost to Duke, I was in his basement with Vegas shorts on, with tears in my eyes the second year, not knowing the following season I'd be losing in the NCAA finals to that exact same Duke team. There would not be a Fab Five if it wasn't for the running Rebels. Rest in peace, Jerry Tarkanian.
Yeah, I thought that was the showtime of college basketball at that time. Really incredible to watch. So as we now will change gears and we move on to the All-Star Weekend, before we get to the players and the game, one of the things we've been tossing around all morning, and it's not like it's been new, is the slam dunk contest and the participants this year and just where that has gone. Do you think it's time that we move on from that event and try and get another event?
It's not time to move on. The problem is it's time to get the players that are in the All-Star game to actually participate in the dunk dunk contest. That's what made the league so great. That's what made the dunk contest so great. Dr. J, Michael Jordan, the list goes on and on of great players. Vince Carter, Tracy McGrady, Kobe Bryant, Scottie Pippen, who at least participated to help grow the game. Now that the game has grown to the point where a team like the Clippers just sold for $2 billion, I think now the interest of the players is to rest and not participate. So therefore, we get a crop of players who are going to put on the show. Zach LaVine is actually my choice to win. Oladipo, I think he's going to be terrific. I've seen him do a 360 in the game. I've only ever seen John Wall actually do that. And then you got a couple of 6'10 plus guys and Antetokounmpo and Plumlee. But again, when you have your big name players in the dunk contest, that brings the nostalgia.
Mike and Jalen Rose on the latest Grantland Basketball Hour, which is, it aired on Sunday, but it re-airs this week. You guys rated Anthony Davis #1 in your trade value, and it's the first time since 2007 that role doesn't go, or that spot didn't go to LeBron James. I mean, the level of respect and belief in the ceiling for Anthony Davis obviously is through the roof. Magic Johnson in our studio the other day said he is the new LeBron. What makes Anthony Davis #1 in your mind?
He's a transcendent player in a league where playing perimeter-oriented at the power forward and the center spot has become paramount. He's a game changer on both ends of the floor. Offensively, can finish around the basket, still needs to work on his back-to-the-basket game, but can definitely play face and make an open jump stop or open jump shot, change ends of the floor. He reminds me of a combination of David Robinson and Kevin Garnett, where he could defend multiple positions, block a shot, be the first person on the other end of the floor to dunk the basketball, and that's at 6'11". I love his demeanor. He fills up the stat sheet, points, rebounds, assists, blocks, steals. The sky's the limit for how good he can be, and if the Pelicans can now put some players around him that can play at an all-star level, man, this guy would then go into a legitimate MVP candidate, which he's already in the conversation.
Do you have any worries about him being nicked up at all? 39 games he's missed in 3 years with various injuries?
I do, but he's so good. It's not like a Greg Oden situation where you have to wonder not only can he stay healthy, but can he play? Like, we know when this guy's healthy, he's dominant. So LeBron James is playing terrific basketball here later since he's come back from injury. I think you have to talk about both Splash Brothers in the MVP conversation, and James Harden is my favorite. But Anthony Davis, I would not worry about his injuries because he is that good.
After the All-Star break, if there's a parting of the ways with Amari Stoudemire and the Knicks, and he is available for a contending team, is that someone you would take a chance on if you're a contending team to bring in?
I would, because he could play some minutes up front for you. You know he can score the basketball. He's not going to do much on the defensive end. But if you're a team like Golden State, but more importantly, a team that's depleted like the Clippers, you're trying to get a player like Amari Stoudemire to come play some of those minutes without Blake Griffin up front. Look at the West. The team that wins the West may likely be decided on the training table. The Clippers without Blake Griffin, the Pelicans without Davis, the Mavs without Tyson Chandler, Houston without Dwight Howard, OKC without Adams. The teams that can stay healthiest at this point, Memphis and San Antonio, are my favorites, but you still have to watch for Golden State and Bogut, who has an injury history, and Aldridge and Portland, who's playing through a bad thumb, and he delayed surgery.
Mike and Mike, Jalen Rose is with us. One game left before the All-Star break. It's tonight. You'll hear it on ESPN Radio. You'll see it on TNT. And it's Cleveland and Chicago, who are two teams that everyone has been looking at basically since the beginning of the season in the Eastern Conference, and they've both had ups and downs, and we'll see. The team that has separated itself, of course, in the East, Jalen, is Atlanta. And the question we hear people ask about them all the time is, give me a playoff series, give me a tough, game in the fourth quarter. Do they have a guy who can go out and get you a basket when you desperately need one to win a game? Is that the concern with Atlanta, and do you view them as the team to beat in the East?
A tremendous amount of respect for the Hawks. So much so, it's hard to play the undercard role anymore when you have 4 All-Stars and potentially the coach of the year in Budenholzer, who I think gets the edge over Kerr because he took over AC, the team that was under 500 last year. The Atlanta Hawks have the opportunity to be the first team in history to have a a Coach of the Year and 4 All-Stars. So they're a legitimate team and a contending team, and I think they will be in the second round, and I love what they've done this year. But the teams you just described, that will be the Eastern Conference Finals. The Bulls are so accomplished. Noah was a first-team All-NBA player last year. Rose has been an MVP. And they'll be watching Jimmy Butler and Gasol play in the All-Star game this weekend. I think once the playoffs come, their style is going to slow other teams down defensively, and they're going to grind out like they've done in the past. And we see what the Cavs have done here lately, led by LeBron James.
All right, the most serious question now, the celebrity game tomorrow night. Again, it'll be on ESPN, 7 o'clock Eastern. Last year, you were a coach, and you coached Greeny's team. This year, it's myself and Spike Lee coaching against Greeny and Carmelo Anthony.
Yeah, we played so well last year, Jalen, they made us coaches.
We're now coaching, and next we'll probably be in the stands. But what's the coaching strategy? How do you deal with all the celebrities?
First and foremost, you got to let everybody feel like they're going to get some shots, because that basketball is a magnet. And you guys know, and Greeny will tell you, when Greeny went in the game, I tried to run a play to get Greeny a shot. It's important to let everybody feel like they can touch the basketball, but more importantly, just to have fun. And for Kevin Hart, do not foul him. Do not allow him to have any layups. And when he's being silly, somebody take the ball from him, go the other way, and score. He's going to be MVP. So make sure he becomes MVP with 4 points instead of 10 points. I played in the game. Justin Bieber was the MVP, and I coached the game last year. I'm looking forward to watching you guys play. And Golic, you got to go up strong when you get an offensive rebound, big fella.
Dude, I'm not on the field this year. I'm a coach. I'm not playing.
I'm talking about last year.
Oh, listen, I've already blocked that from my memory.
Let me ask you this, Jalen, because I want to beat Golic pretty badly in this thing. If this thing comes down to the very end, Carmelo Anthony is my assistant coach. Now, I know he's got a knee, but do you think he's willing to go out there and give me 5 minutes at the end of this game if I need him to win this thing?
I do not think so. Between the All-Star Weekend and James Dolan's emails and Melo missing the last handful of games, Greeny, I think you guys are just happy to have the Knicks be a host, because other than that, their season is something that's been really unforgettable.
No, this could be the one thing that he does that makes up for all of it, though, is if he wins me this celebrity game, it could work out. Again, you will see Jalen Rose and company, everybody on our way to down to the city for all the festivities of All-Star Weekend. Thank you, Jalen. Great to hear your voice again. We'll see you soon.
I love you guys. Have a great day.
This has been the best of Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio Pod Center. To hear more from Mike and Mike, log on to ESPNradio.com and become an ESPN Radio Insider.
The best of Mike and Mike.